Hi, this is Sweet Life and I'm Natasha, back at it with the recipe for making herb butter New York strip steak. For the longest, I was not the biggest fan of beef. I felt that it had a very earthy, minerally kind of flavor that reminded me quite a bit of liver. But in recent years, I've, give it another shot, as I hadn't really eaten beef since I was a little kid, and that's when I decided I didn't like it. A few years ago, I bought New York strips and tried that and found that I actually liked it quite well. In the time since, I've made ribeyes, which I liked, and last year I went out with some coworkers to a Korean barbecue place and found that I actually really liked the steak there. So what I feel is my issue would be probably not a matter of not liking beef on the whole, but rather that I only like certain cuts of beef. And then also, I like for my beef to be seasoned. In the past where I had steak at restaurants, it was usually just seasoned with salt and pepper, which isn't enough for me. So in the time since, I've made steak on a few occasions now and actually really enjoy it. I feel that it's one of those things that I feel more comfortable eating at home. Just to be on the safe side, it's not something I would necessarily order at restaurants. But this is a recipe that I came up with after going out for Korean barbecue and having made steak a few times. It's a simple recipe that comes together very quickly. It uses a dry rub rather than a wet sauce, and the steak comes out really nice and moist, very flavorful. It's something you can put together pretty quickly. The most important thing is just timing the steaks so that you don't overcook it. You can cook it to your desired level of doneness. You can pair it with a number of sides, but it's the kind of recipe I like where the finished product looks really impressive, but it's not that difficult to make. To add some flavor and also add some moisture, I make a herb compound butter, which I just then put on the hot steak. It melts, the butter gets onto the meat, keeps it really nice and moist, and the herbs actually add just additional flavor. So you just get flavor upon flavor. It's really nice where you can have it as a simple weeknight meal, but you can also dress it up with some nice sides. You can dress it up for a date night, birthday dinner by pairing it with some shrimp or lobster tail for a sort of surf and turf type thing. It's very versatile, but not at all difficult to put together. All right. And so now, here I have some New York strips. 3 New York strip steaks that I have just simply cut in half. I don't like a lot of meat. New York strips are usually about this long here. I think that's too much meat. So instead I've cut them in half, especially because I'm going to serve it with other stuff. Rinsed it off with a bit of vinegar. I've left on the fat and everything, didn't trim that off. Now ready to season. So my seasonings that I have are salt, black pepper, brown sugar, paprika, chili powder, and then garlic powder. And so the brown sugar is really just to help this brown. It helps it to get like some really nice color because I'm not going to slice this up until afterwards. So I want to make sure that it has like a nice bit of color on the outside. It's very well seasoned because I'm not going to be adding like a wet sauce afterwards, right? The most I'm going to do with it is just a little herb butter at the end. So that'll give it like a little bit of richness. It'll give it like a bit of herby flavor, but I want to make sure the steak is really well seasoned. So now I'm just going to take my spoon and just blend this all together. Because instead of like sprinkling it one at a time, blending it together this way, I know that it's like well mixed and everything, makes it easier to spread evenly over the meat. All right. So there we go. Got like a nice little seasoning blend. Nicely blended up. The brown sugar might clump a little bit, so you can just use the back of the spoon just to break up any like little lumps that you might have. Just make sure that it's nice and well blended. Put my spoon off to the side. And now let's season. So with this, just going to sprinkle over the top of it. Try to get it nice and even. Get it all on both sides, but also like the top and the bottom of the steaks, but also on the sides. And actually, it'll be pretty helpful to. I'm going to use the spoon at this point to flip it over so I don't put like my hand inside the seasoning. But at the end, I'll then, mix it up with my hands. But just for right now to keep things nice and clean. And I'll flip it over on the other side. Flip that over on the other side. And now then hit it with the rest of that seasoning. And there we go. Alright. And now I'm going to start mixing this up by hand. All on the sides and everything like that. Just make sure it's really nicely seasoned. And this will help with like the browning as well. That little bit of brown sugar that I put in there. Now, if you like, you can certainly leave these strips whole. Depends on how you're serving it and what your preferences are. It's your meal. Do what you want with it. And there we go. And it's all nicely seasoned now. And this seasoning mix, I think at least a half hour minimum, but overnight would be just as well. You can put it in the fridge, you get up in the morning, pop it on the grill, however long you want to do it. 8 hours be great. I think a half hour is just about fine. You season this first, put it off to the side, let it marinate for a little bit, get started with your sides and your stuff like that. By the time your sides are done, you'll be ready. Nice meal, right? Pretty quick. And the steaks won't actually take that long to cook. I don't like rare steak, but it doesn't have to necessarily be well done. I go more like medium well to like well is fine for me. Like medium well is fine. I'll eat like a well done steak as well. I don't like rare, but if that's your flavor, go ahead, cook it to your level of doneness. Absolutely fine. All right, so now we have a cast iron pan here with just a little bit of butter at the bottom, screaming hot. And to this, I'm now going to add my steaks. And into the pan they go. Here I have, this is just some softened butter with some garlic that I just browned. And so the garlic actually I heated in the pan, so it ended up being quite warm and makes it easier to mix into the butter. And so this is going to be our garlic herb butter. The garlic and the butter are now mixed, and to that I'm going to add the herbs. And this is just a handful of parsley from a bunch of parsley. And I'm just going to bunch it all up and just give it like a nice rough chop. Turn it to the next one. So you can't smell this, but as you start chopping it, like it didn't really smell like much of anything before, but the moment you start chopping it, it gives off like quite a bit of aroma. So there we go. And this now, just chop through the bigger pieces there. And so now then, this I'll just gather up and just into the garlic butter. There you go. Stir that up. And actually, I think I probably need a little bit more butter because it's more garlic and herb than anything now. So that was just about like half a stick, and so I'm gonna add a little bit more solid, but I guess not quite so liquid. When you're making the steak, cook it to your level of doneness. I cooked it with some simple sides, just some home fries, and a bit of roasted mushrooms. You could certainly dress it up. You could dress it down. Very simple. You can even take this steak, slice it like I've done here, put it over some salad, and you'll have like a really nice meal. It's a good building block. It's very versatile. Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my Cooking at Home playlist. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.